end of June, we'll have covered 52 different topics in our 5 years, we're very proud of that. And so my name is Stacy. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a white woman. I've got a red shirt on and red earrings and a red necklace and kind of salt and pepper, kind of blonde hair, nondescript. Closed captioning is available for those of you who want that. And we are here today to discuss an important topic. Immigration is our topic today, and we have 4 wonderful speakers who are going to be our panelists for today. But let us tell you just a little bit more about Inform Your Community. You can find out more about our events at www.informyourcommunity.org. Feel free to also check out our social media access there at the bottom of our website, as well as our donate button on the top of our website to help keep our events free. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe and comment and share. We always appreciate you telling friends about our events. So please make sure to do that as well. And they can sign up for our mailing list on the top of our website as well. This event in particular is part of our Know It All program, where we invite experts to come and discuss an important topic like today's topic, immigration. And throughout the discussion, if you have any questions for our panelists, then you can go ahead and put those right in the chat and we'll be sure to ask them, and feel free to comment as well. We have our 4 wonderful presenters, and without further ado, I'll introduce them. Courtney Rainier has launched Magnolia Immigration Law. It is a boutique law firm located in Orlando, Florida. It's dedicated to providing legal service in the areas of business and family immigration. James Hung-Soo Chan is an astrophysicist affiliated with the City University of New York, as well as the American Museum of Natural History. He did his postdoctoral research in Switzerland and received his PhD from National Taiwan University. Giselle Martinez, who's going to be joining us as well. She is an attorney, she's a legal director and co-founder of the Orlando Center of Justice. And then last but not least, Felipe Sousa Lazabale. Did I do that right?
It was pretty good. Felipe Sousa Lazabale. Very good.
Okay. I don't think I said it anything like that, but I appreciate your kindness there. He is the executive director of Hope Community, and I love that name, Community. It's wonderful. Community Center and a candidate for the Florida House District 42. So welcome to our speakers. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started on our Q&A with our wonderful speakers. And of course, as you have questions, like I said, please feel free to put them in the chat and you can comment there as well. So really welcome to our guest panelists. Please do briefly take a moment, introduce yourselves. Let us know what your experience is related to this topic, why you care about it, how you became involved in the space. Feel free, whoever wants to start.
I can start. So my name is Giselle Martinez. I am the co-founder and legal director of Orlando Center for Justice. I have been an immigration attorney now for 13 years. And I'm an immigrant myself. I immigrated from Colombia when I was 12 years old. So that's my background.
Thank you, Giselle.
Hello, everybody. My name is Felipe Sousa Lazabale. I am the executive director of the Hope Community Center, which is an organization in Central Florida that serves over 20,000 people every single year through our youth and family education and citizenship services. But beyond that, about a year ago, I started a new journey as a candidate for Florida House. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that's like. But I'm an immigrant from Brazil. I came to the U.S. when I was 14 years old, and I was undocumented for 15 years of my life. So this issue is very dear and near to my heart, and that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Thank you, Felipe. Welcome. Courtney, you want to go next?
Oh, sure. And I've got to say, Felipe hasn't even scratched the surface of his story. He has the most amazing story, and I hope we have time to get into it today because he is one of the foreign nationals that are called dreamers, that were immigrants who were brought here as children who don't really have a clear path forward through our current immigration system. And he actually got to meet President Obama. He was instrumental in helping with the DACA program, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. He's amazing. So can't say enough good things about him. And he is dear friends with Giselle, and I love both of their work, Hope Community Center and Orlando Center for Justice. I've volunteered with Hope Community Center, and I'm on the board for OCJ. My area of expertise in immigration is business immigration. So what OCJ and Hope do are more on the humanitarian side of immigration, helping with humanitarian visas. I work more with, and James Chan is actually like the ideal kind of candidate for me as a client, scientists, teachers, students who are here on student visas who are looking to stay and continue in a work visa or a work green card capacity. I help them do that, and I help their employers sponsor them for those visas. So I'm kind of on the other side of immigration in terms of specialties.
You actually, I already have a question for you, and it wasn't one of the ones we prepared. So as a lawyer in Florida,
yeah,
James is in New York, for example. Not like I'm trying to connect you guys. He's already got a lot. But I'm just curious, can a Florida lawyer, like, are the laws so different by state?
I love this. That's such a great question. And I did not expect this when I started practicing immigration. I actually went to New York Law School in Tribeca, lived in Brooklyn for 10 years. So I started my journey as an immigration attorney in New York and practiced there for 5 years before moving to Florida, because immigration law is based on federal law. So think Social Security benefits, the tax code, immigration, those are all things that are based on federal law, and they're applied equally to all 50 states. So I can take clients from anywhere in the United States or around the world, anywhere they want to come and live. So I have clients in New York and Minnesota and Texas and California. And because that it's one set of laws that apply to all 50 states, unlike criminal law or family law that is state specific.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, James, I want you to introduce yourself, but since Felipe came with his own entourage, apparently, I want to, I've got to be your entourage, okay? So James is not only an amazing astrophysicist working in an incredible organization. I mean, come on, the National Museum of Natural History. I took my kids there to the planetarium and the museum, but really just iconic to be able to have you here with us today. But also, he is a magician. So I don't know that we'll see magic in actual performance, but I'm sure whatever he says will be magical. No pressure, James. Please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I still identify myself as an astrophysicist, and magic is my hobby. That's why I'm fortunate to meet Stacy's husband, and then we hang out with Jim together, brainstorm ideas, and her husband Mike, he's amazing. So he is also the magician. Yeah. And but most of the time I still doing research. Yeah, and so because I'm astrophysics, I do research. So I'm fortunate to travel and live different countries, and I think that's amazing. And it's because I think science is important to brainstorm and collaborate with any scientist in the world, not just like local. You need to meet people in the world, and so I got a chance to travel, and I think now because U.S. The immigrant becomes more difficult. So I think that's why we are here to talk about that. So before, as scientists, we can live with like a visa, like working visa, but now basically is no possible. So I wish I can meet Corny earlier so that you can help me. Yeah, but now I also have some friends to help me out to find a lawyer to start. So I'm in the process to start to apply the green card, and that took me a lot of time, of course, money, but I think that's yeah.
That's you make a great point, actually, James. So another question not on my list. Sorry to do it to everybody, but what is the cost of, like, just approximate? You don't have to give me your hourly. But for somebody who doesn't know, right? People who don't know about this topic would think, yeah, you just come, you just apply. That's it, right?
Oh,
But
no, no. Yeah.
there's time. So like the time
Well, and not
cost.
to put, I'll take over because I don't want to put James on the spot because I have no idea how much money he spent, but I can tell you it's a lot. Depending on what kind of visa that you're applying for. The immigration, the attorney's fees may be as little as a few $1,000s, or may be as much as $30,000. So that's just to give you kind of a range, right? Depending on how complex the application is and how much work is involved for the attorneys, right? But just as a frame of reference for filing fees, right? The filing fees have gone up so much over, and Giselle can talk to this too, because we've been doing this for a while, right? When I started practicing 20 years ago, you could apply for a green card and it was like $300 for the filing fees. Now, the lowest filing fee for a temporary visa is $270. For a green card, you're looking at spending at least $3,000 on filing fees. And it really depends on what application type you're doing for how much the filing fees are going to be. And that's per applicant. So if you're married, if you've got kids, it adds up. So yeah, it can get very expensive very fast.
So maybe here I can add a little bit something. So because as Courtney said, there are different type of the green card application. So far I know there are basically two types. One is working related. One is like a marriage. I think marriage one is cheaper. I think 1,000 probably is fine, and then you don't need to get a lawyer because it's easy to apply.
Oh, you say that.
Well,
based on my friends, yeah.
I disagree with that.
Yeah. But I just based on my friend because I was thinking when I start to apply. My neighbor, he's also immigrant, and he said, "Okay, James, don't worry, I can help you out. I already deal this a lot before." But when I show him my application, because I work in visa, so I need to use my expertise, like based on my job. So for that's much more complicated. Yeah, that's really, really hard. So basically, he cannot help me. So in this case, I really need to get a lawyer, and once a lawyer, that's very, very expensive.
Well, and just based on what you've told me so far, like I said, you're a perfect candidate for me. I can think of 4 different green card types that you might be eligible for, and that's just employment based. 4 different employment based green card types. If you've got a nice American significant other, we could talk about other things too. But 4 employment based. So immigration law is super complex. Giselle, were you going to say something about fees?
Well, I was going to mention that there's also people that are in immigration court, right? So they get placed in these deportation proceedings in immigration court. And unlike criminal court, you don't have the right to be appointed an attorney. So you can pay for your own attorney, but you don't get one appointed or assigned for free. And court proceedings are very complex, especially right now. So that can be extremely expensive for an immigrant, especially somebody who entered recently into the US or who has been a victim of a crime, to be able to have representation in immigration court, which is a whole nother conversation besides the visas and the
Giselle works for a nonprofit, but like I have a friend who's in another state, so I feel like it's okay for me to say this because I'm not giving away filing fees or attorney's fees in Florida, but he charges $10,000 just to start the process, right? And those deportation cases last years, so the fees add up.
And by the way, also not to mention when English isn't your first language, right? So legal, processes are complex, but now add all the stress, all the money, and English isn't necessarily your first language if you speak it fluently at all. So my next question was.
Wait. Sorry, I just saw in the chat, and I don't know if now is the right time to talk about it, but I thought maybe this would be a good one for Giselle. We've got a question in the chat about client population are minors and ORR waiting on removal hearings. Can you talk about the process and any resources within Florida? Is that something, do you want to wait till you have time, if we have time at the end? Because I feel like that's a longer question.
You can also
what do you think?
Chat if you want, but it's
do you want to answer in the chat?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, whatever you're comfortable with. Feel free to share the insights. And so I was going to say, what gets, what do we mean when we talk about immigration? What does that include? How do you define it? And who gets left out when people think about immigration? So kind of two questions there. And Felipe, I'm going to start with you if that's okay.
Absolutely. So I think that immigration is a really complex issue, right? So we have to think about what are the push and the pull factors, right? What made somebody leave their country? For the most part, it's usually because of poverty or because of violence or because of something that was happening there. There is the number of people that come because they want to come, meaning that they got a job, it's actually much smaller. And because of the great majority of the people who are trying to come to the US, which by the way, this is the most American of all American stories. The story of hardworking people from another country trying to get an opportunity in the United States. It's literally how this country was built. So when you come this way, you almost never have a pathway to citizenship. So a lot of people have to cross borders because they couldn't get a visa, even a tourist visa, to come to the United States. If you cross the border, then you're essentially barred from any legal proceedings once you're inside. If you came with a visa, like say, for example, a tourist visa, was actually my story. I came to the US on a tourist visa and I overstayed my visa because I couldn't get a path towards citizenship and I was undocumented. So when you become undocumented, the way that I think about it is, the way I like to explain it to people is, imagine a nightmare. That kind of nightmare that there is a monster, but you cannot move. That's exactly what it feels like to be an undocumented immigrant in the United States. Every time you get in your car, that could be the last day you're in the United States. Every time you go to work, that might be the last time that you see your family. That's what it's like. And if you get deported, you get barred from the US for 10 years. So I was in this situation for 15 years of my life. So I got here when I was 14. I had great grades and I thought, oh my God, if I work hard, all my dreams can come true, right? Because that's what we're taught. But that was not what happened to me here in Florida. I had to pay out-of-state fees. It took me 7 years to graduate from college. I had to work at night. I was also an activist, a community organizer, also a troublemaker because I believe in democracy. And that's exactly what Courtney said. That's how I became involved in a movement that we call it the Dreamer Movement, which is of young people who come to the United States before the age of 15 and are barred from any kind of a pathway. Now, I became a US citizen because of marriage equality. So this is also an example of how sometimes different laws work against you. So I was married to a US citizen, but because we were in a same-sex relationship and marriage at the time, he couldn't petition for me to stay in the United States with a green card. So when the Supreme Court made a decision, I got a green card. And then now I'm a citizen. So I became a citizen in 2021. And that's the reason why I'm able to run for office here in Florida.
And just to kind of fill everybody in, because I know immigration law is the most complex area of law in the United States. The only people who will argue with me about that is tax lawyers, right? But tax law and immigration law, they are the most complicated areas of law. The statutes are complicated. And to add, the tax code is one tax code. And yes, we've seen lots of changes in that tax code over the last few years with updates that or changes that Trump has made. But in immigration law, we're dealing with Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, right? And that Department of State's in charge of all the consulates around the world. We're dealing with the Department of Labor when we're dealing with employment-based green cards and short-term visas, like the H-1B visa that Dr. Chan's currently here on. And we have a confluence of all those laws. We have to check in on every single agency's regulations to make sure that, and I forgot Department of Justice, which is Giselle's area of expertise. I don't live in that world. You live in that world, and that's a whole other set.
And we also work with the Department of Health and Human Services with the children. When they're detained under the Department of Health and Human Services. So we literally have all the cabinet.
Yes, all the agencies that you can think of. We are interacting with them. And and how they overlap with our immigration laws. So Felipe has kind of described what it's like to come and overstay a visa, right? To have some period where they're out of status, where I'm betting Dr. Chan has been in some kind of current legal status all the time that he's here, whether it's on a work visa or a student visa, or maybe back and forth between the two. And now he's working on trying to get his green card. So just to kind of like give everybody the big picture of immigration world, we're always dealing with, I'll say 3 areas. One is temporary visas. That's a student visa. That's a visitor's visa. That's a work visa that's granted for anywhere from 1 to 3 years at a time. And can be renewed, but only in certain circumstances. It's complicated. We have immigrant visas. Those are green cards. That's how Felipe got his green card. He married an American, right? There are other family categories too. You can have a sibling sponsor you. You can, have a parent sponsor you, or a child over 21 can sponsor a parent, right? So there are other family green cards that you can get. And then there are the employment-based categories, which there are a lot, right? If you're a minister, you might be able to get a green card through your church and be able to work for the church. Like I'm guessing Dr. Chan might qualify for either an extraordinary ability green card or an outstanding researcher green card. Those are subcategories of those employment-based green cards. And then the third type are the humanitarian, people who, again, escaping tragedies or potential harm, future harm or past harm. They may be coming here to seek asylum or some other humanitarian visa. And those are the people that are in that nightmare until they get a final determination. And so just that, it's a lot. Immigration world is a complicated world.
Thank you for laying that foundation.
So
Yeah,
corny, because I feel, maybe just add something. I feel before, like, okay, this kind of working visa, it's easier to extend, but I think now it becomes really, really difficult.
Everything's difficult. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel that's why more people want to apply green card at this moment. Yeah, but I think
Right.
because new policy, it also make it more complicated.
They're
But
making everything complicated. No matter how easy an application should be, it's complicated. That's why you said earlier you could marry an American and maybe you don't need to hire an attorney. In the past, I might have agreed with you, but since Trump's first term, I can't, because there's too many things that could go wrong.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
The policy changes are crazy. They just made one. Giselle, do you want to talk about the one from last Friday for adjusting the status?
Exactly. That's why. Oh my gosh, what happened to me now?
Yeah.
All right. So, well, 2 things. Well, one, the way the new memo that came out last week is that now they are saying that adjustment of status, which is getting the green card, is this extraordinary form of relief, and that you have to show all these equities and all this hardship to be able to get it, which is not what the law says, but that's what this memo is saying that they're going to look into. And I just want to kind of tie that into another topic a little bit, and it's like, we keep hearing this, like, well, immigrants need to do it the right way, right? Like, we don't mind immigrants as long as they do it the right way. Yet we're putting all these bars and all these obstacles for immigrants to be able to do it the right way, or even those who are doing it the right way, we're making it extremely hard for them to do it the right way. So is it really about immigrants doing it the right way?
Keep moving the goalposts, right?
Exactly.
So for the 20 years I've practiced immigration, there are 2 ways to get a green card. Either you go back to your home consulate and you process through the consulate with the Department of State, or if you're in the United States and you want to stay here, you don't want to travel back to South Africa, you don't have to take that long plane ride. You can process here in the United States. The law says you can. And now they're saying, nah, we want everybody to have to go back to their consulate because they want to make it as hard as possible. They want to be able to deny as many applications as possible. That is the goal.
And some of the things you said earlier, like there isn't a free court-appointed kind of attorney available, right? The costs have increased. So even in what you folks have said previously, right, and the kind of constant fear that Felipe talked about, so what is the thing we know the least about for those of us who aren't directly impacted by this topic? What should we know more about? The kind of people who just don't know.
That's so hard for us. I know it's hard for Giselle and I to answer because we live in this world, so we don't know what you guys don't know. But I'm thinking maybe Felipe or James might have some real world experience for like things you weren't expecting. It's part of the process.
Yeah, I think that, well, one, what Giselle said, right? The myth of the line. Go back to the line. The line doesn't exist. It exists for some people, but not for all people. As a matter of fact, most people don't get a line, right? So, for example, Courtney talked about a sibling petitioning for another sibling. So I was born in Brazil. So if I was trying to petition my sister, she would have to wait 20 to 30 years to be able to come. So there is
possible, but it's not fast.
it's all these myths that exist. The second part is the idea of immigrants not paying taxes. So when you come to the U.S., the first thing you do is I am gonna follow the law because you want to one day be able and eligible for the green card. So the first thing you do is that you get an IT number so you can pay taxes. So I've been paying taxes forever, way before I got my green card. And as a matter of fact, before I got my green card, I wasn't actually eligible for any support from the government, which is another myth. Okay, so, immigrants are coming here to take resources. It's absolutely not true because it's simply not possible. You're not eligible. And the last piece is the emotional turmoil of not knowing what tomorrow may hold. The constant fear, the constant anxiety, also the feeling that no matter how much you try, you're never going to be able to achieve the goal. I remember as a little 14-year-old kid laying in bed, dreaming about the day of becoming a U.S. citizen. I became super involved with civic engagement, helping other people register to vote, telling people about the importance of voting, but I couldn't vote. Those realities are realities that oftentimes get overshadowed by the political football that they use, right? Or even the rhetoric. So in the work I do, I work with a lot of second-generation immigrants, so children of immigrants who are watching TV, so middle schoolers who are watching TV and listening to the way that they are talking about themselves and their families by the President of the United States, by the Governor of Florida, and the impact that has on their self-esteem and their own ability to even do well in school is incredible, and it's really hard to even quantify. There is a whole other impact that we will only really understand generations from now.
That's an excellent point. So I this idea of myths that we don't know, if we don't know about the topic, we're not directly affected by it, then we're going to believe those myths, right? And stereotypes. And so let's talk about the elephant in the room, the idea of the illegal immigrant. Somebody tell me about that. Tell us about that.
And I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, of the doing it the right way or the illegal immigrant. I think immigrants have been, more recently, I think that before, portrayed as this like, the border invasion, right? Like we had open borders and we had these images of like hundreds of people like going through the border, the US-Mexico border. And at the end of the day, we never focus on the human beings, right? Like these are actual humans and like why they're coming and all this. I was saying earlier, right? They're putting all these bars to be able to obtain legal status. So, and they're people who have status they're making them essentially illegal by taking away their work permits. So they took away TPS, where thousands of people had TPS status to be able to work, and they had a work permit and they had a social security number and they were here I would argue legally, right? Like you have your documents, and they took away that for Venezuela, for really a number of countries that now I can't even list. And besides that, we have DACA, right? So we have people like Felipe used to be a dreamer, a student who came here as a child and then got a work permit through that, and now they're delayed by months and months and months, 6 months, a year. So these people now are essentially undocumented and illegal, right? But because the government is making it by design right now like that. And now we have all these other cases taking very long. We've had cases of asylees, so people who have filed for an asylum application 10, 11 years ago that have been waiting, at least here in Florida, they're still waiting for a decision. I just got an interview appointment from a Venezuelan client. I filed his asylum in early 2018. We have his interview next month. So it took 8 years for this person he did it the right way, right? He entered with a visa. He applied for asylum as you're allowed under the immigration laws. He's had a work permit for the last 8 years. But for whatever reason, it took 8 years for him to now get to this final point of getting an interview and hopefully get a decision.
But
and meanwhile,
I just want to jump in and say that 90% of asylum claims are denied. You're facing an uphill battle. Just getting in front of the judge and knowing that the likelihood of denial is way greater than likelihood of approval, even for really valid, solid cases. And to be able to claim asylum, you have to be able to show a fear of persecution, either in the past or in the future. So the bar was always high, and now it's impossible.
Yes.
And on the business side, just to jump in, on the business side, they're just making things harder to stay in a legal status, right? Every time you file an extension, like I have a friend who has an athlete who very high performing athlete. It's not easy to get an athlete's visa. And they filed their extension properly, but now he's been detained because his driver's license expired while he was waiting for the extension to be approved. And at least Florida state won't renew a license without an approval. So it might take 6 or 9 months to get an approval. You can't drive. So they're like putting up roadblocks everywhere, not just on the humanitarian side of things. So sorry to interrupt you, Gisela.
I know. But what I was going to say is, this idea of having a work permit historically was, you're here legally, but I've had several clients that even with the work permit, they have been detained, right? So now they're, especially here in Florida, where the detentions are exponentially higher than anywhere else. These people have been here for 10 years. Now they're detained. Now they're facing deportation proceedings when they did it the right way. When they were here legally, they had their work permit. So I hear that. I read for whatever reason, I read too much social media comments, and I shouldn't do that. But all these people are like, well, why didn't they just apply, right? And I'm like, but these people applied, and they're detained right now, and they're going to deport them. It's the most unfair system, especially right now. I'm very passionate about this.
One of the detention centers, did I hear correctly that it's going to be
closing?
Down?
Alligator Alcatraz, yeah.
Yes. So what's interesting about Alligator Alcatraz, and also just how deportation and detentions are happening around the country, is that some states are taking a proactive effort to use state resources to detain and deport immigrants, which is exactly what's happening in Florida, and the reason why Florida leads on deportations of immigrants. So Alligator Alcatraz, so let's begin with the fact that immigration, like Courtney said, is actually federal law, which means that the state should not get involved. But the state of Florida passed a law in 2025 called the Trump Act that required some of local governments to enter a relationship with immigration, with ICE, and also created a task force on immigration enforcement, including spending $1 billion on this detention center in the middle of the Everglades, which is an incredibly sensitive environment, and also how we get our fresh water in the entire state, by the way. Putting all of that at risk in the name of hate, in my opinion. And I can give you a long list of how I would use that $1 billion, like affordable housing, better schools, better roads. I mean, you name it. I mean, we can go on and on and on about how we could use this money in a better way. So what we are also seeing happening at the same time is that some states are taking this really aggressive posture against immigrants like Florida.
So I have a question here. So maybe for you guys. So basically, there are three type of the immigrant or green card application. One is the refugee, and another one is marriage, and the third one probably is more related to me. It's like working, like expertise, a green card. So for the new policy from the Trump government, which one he really doesn't want to support? Yeah.
Great.
All of them.
Oh.
All of them. He's an equal opportunity. If you have an accent, he doesn't want you here. And I had this during the first Trump administration. I work with a lot of Canadians and a lot of British people. And they got very offended when I told them, no, he doesn't like you guys either. You got an accent? Yeah.
But
It's
that's quite
it
interesting
really,
because if I talk to some like local people here, like citizen here, like they don't need to deal all of this shit, and then they wonder why we are so struggling to do this kind of application. Because I think the government or based on the social media, the government give you the image like, oh no, we want to take the immigrant. If they are hard worker, we want them to stay. But apparently, based on your experience, it doesn't work like this, right? Yeah.
not at all. No.
So how can how can we really pass this like correct image to the people like Stacy? You don't need to care about this, but you want to know what happened correctly, right?
Mm.
How can we do that?
It feels like it's such an irony to me that everyone's very excited about citizenship days and about events like 4th of July. There's going to be an event everywhere, right? In every major city, there's going to be an event where they do some public swearing in of new citizens because we love new citizens, right? And don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorite parts of my job. I love to mint a new American, but we don't like them until they're waving that flag and they've got the certificate of naturalization in their hands, right? So it's very frustrating to try and explain. It took a lot of people, like 10 years is a pretty common number. Even if you're here on a business visa, it could take you 10 years to be able to get from that temporary status to getting a green card, just depending on how you apply. Even marrying an American, which is the fastest way to get a green card.
Yeah,
it's
we are
thinking like a year to 2 years. Yeah.
And then another 3 to 5 years to become a citizen after that too. So
and I think this kind of marriage with the green cards, it really make people to like. I have a friend. He married, I think, a woman from Honduras, and they married since like 2 years ago, and they couldn't see each other because his wife cannot come into the U.S. I think that's terrible, and I don't know how to help them.
Those stories are our everyday stories. Processing through the consulates right now is just taking a really, really long time. And the fact that they put out this memo saying this should be the default way, they don't have each individual consulate, they do not have the resources, they do not have the staff to be able to do these applications at any kind of reasonable pace. That's a year to 2 years waiting for the consulate doesn't surprise me at all.
So it becomes one more roadblock to make it harder. And I think that's the interesting dichotomy that I'm hearing from you folks. It's like there's this outsider perspective that people have who aren't directly impacted by this. I mean, we're all directly impacted by it. And I'd love for you to tell us, how are we all directly impacted by it? But we think we're not, right? Because it's not my sister, it's not my mother, it's not my, whoever. So we have this kind of outsider perspective of like, just fill out some forms and do it the right way and stop doing it illegally. And by the way, I always think it's important to know, I don't think it gets said enough because I think you folks assume it, but us outsiders really need to hear this, is what kind of violation being illegal illegal quote marks is. So if you can tell us more about that too, like how serious of an offense it is as far as on the books. What does it mean to be illegal in that sense? And then there's this other side of it where like the reality for the people who are living this experience, some of yourselves, for example, have been through it or are going through it, is that it's incredibly time consuming, it's incredibly terrifying, it's incredibly emotional, it's incredibly costly. It, you know, it hurts families and family dynamics. It makes those much harder. So it's this strange dichotomy that the media, like I forget who had said it, is promoting as well, like the simplicity versus the actual complexity, that there's this veneer that you can't get past for the everyday person who doesn't know about this topic to get more informed about. By the way, welcome to this event, which is why we're doing this, right? But so, okay, I planted a few seeds there. Who wants to kind of grow any of those?
I'll let the attorneys talk about the offenses, right? The civil offense, that it's not criminal offense, but I'll let them explain that better. But on the other side, how are we all impacted by immigration? So just to give you a sense of it, about more than 50% of the people who started the Fortune 500s in the United States are immigrants. So they're like people like James, actually, who are really smart and have an incredible idea. And guess what? If you're probably right now sitting in front of a computer that they built. And that's that, right? The majority of our agricultural system is actually made of people who are farm workers, and these farm workers are immigrants. More than 50% of them are immigrants. Our construction industry, it's entirely almost made of immigrants. Immigrants pay tax.
Here in Florida, our hospitality industry,
Yes.
right, which is so important here, is mainly immigrants, Haitian immigrants here in Central Florida.
Yeah, let's talk about how many H-2B seasonal workers work at Mar-a-Lago,
Yes.
Trump's property. That's
But what this discussion truly is about is, what does it mean to be an American? And who is allowed to be an American and who is not? And that is really what's happening right now, right? In politics, but also on kitchen tables. And what I always say is the following. So I was coming home the other day. I love Hamilton, okay? So I'm listening to Hamilton, and then and it was the song My Shot, right? So I was like, I'm not gonna waste my shot, right? He was an immigrant. He was born in the Caribbean, and he is the reason why we have the dollar. So the American history and America, as we know it, only exists because of this heritage of people who came like he did, like I did, like Giselle did, like James did, like the millions and millions of others before us, and honestly, hopefully, the millions after us. Because we bring not only ourselves, but we bring culture, we bring our knowledge, we bring our grit, and we build this country together with the people who are already here.
That's great. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was saying that like, oh, outsiders like me who aren't affected by this, but my mother was an immigrant. Like, what am I talking about? How did I forget that when I literally am doing this event and just said that sentence like less than 5 minutes ago? Like, my mother wasn't born here. You know, my aunt was literally born on the ship, by the way. She was born on the ship, and her middle name is actually the name of the ship. And yeah, so imagine like my grandmother pregnant on the boat, but that's when her number got called. Like, they were waiting for years. That's when her number got called to come over. And so that's when she had to come. She couldn't miss the shot, right? So she came over on the boat, you know, imminently pregnant, and gave birth on the boat by herself. Her husband wasn't able to come with her. She had another daughter, wasn't able to come with her. And yeah. So, and here I am saying, I'm an outsider, I'm not affected by this, right? So,
but something I want to mention is, I hear this a lot. It's like, well, this idea of the criminal immigrant or the bad immigrant or the one the illegal one, where, well, it's not the one that I know, right? It cannot be my babysitter. She's the good one, right? But it's the older ones that are the bad ones. It cannot be my nurse or it's the other ones that I don't know. Those are the bad ones. But at the end of the day, they can still detain and deport your babysitter, and they can still detain and deport your nurse or whoever you love, or your sister-in-law who's an immigrant. But there's this idea that, like, no, it's not. We're not, when we're talking of so bad and so many mean things about immigrants, it's not about my immigrant. It's about somebody else's immigrant.
Somebody else's immigrant.
But then also to say, like, just to bring in like the legal part of it, it's not a crime to be in the United States without a status. So calling someone illegal or a criminal because they're here without a status, it's just not true. It's not accurate. It's the same as, say, and actually this happened to me last year. I forgot to renew my car registration. So I've committed the same civil offense as someone who overstayed, like Felipe did, overstayed a visitor's visa, right? So like in terms of illegal, right? I've made the same mistake that 10 million people have made. And I would also point out that prior to 1996, and I like to tell this story because I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was there. I was actually about an hour and a half away when the Edward R. Murrow building was bombed by Timothy McVeigh, white guy, American. And in response to that bombing, and we felt it an hour and a half away, it felt like an earthquake. They reformed the immigration laws for the first time it was like a decade since they had reformed the laws. And in 1996, they came out with the Immigration and Nationality Act, which effectively closed the borders. And prior to that, the borders were much more open. It was much easier to get a visa. There were a lot more humanitarian grounds that you could use when you wanted to come in. There was an amnesty that existed until September 11th, 2001. It was set to have a bipartisan vote and be reenacted. And then, things happened on 9/11 that kind of ruined their day, canceled Congress. And then it also changed. That was really a huge sea change for the way people thought about immigrants and immigration, because the bombers they'd been here on student visas. They were here legally. They had the right to be here. And they killed a lot of people. And I was actually there that day too. I was on the subway underneath at Cortlandt Street on my way to law school classes. So yeah, and again, it took a couple of years, but in 2003, they reformed immigration laws again to further tighten who is allowed to come in. And that, again, still, they've not made it a crime. Even after those things happened and the laws got tighter, it's still a civil infraction, right? It's not paying a parking ticket. It's, not renewing your car registration. It's the equivalent of that. So, when you hear the rhetoric of the bad guys, think about your car registration.
So that's quite interesting. So you said that legal and illegal depends on the law.
Mhm.
Yeah, and but people may also argue that, okay, so we want to have no criminal. So that's why you make it tighter. But do that really help to really reduce, for example, the criminal rate? If
The
it doesn't
criminal
work, then
rate-
they shouldn't do that.
The criminal rate is typically lower among foreign national populations, whether they're in a legal status or an undocumented status. They know that if they get into trouble with the law, it could mean they get deported. So whether I work with a lot of foreign national students, right? And I had a guy come to me, he's trying to go from a student visa to an H-1B work visa. And he's like, oh, by the way, I got a DUI a couple years ago. He's a college kid, right? He's went out partying. He's driving home. He gets pulled over.
Not that we're endorsing that.
We're not endorsing that at all. I don't approve of drinking and driving. But for an American citizen, it would be a fine and go home. For him, it was losing his student visa, not being able to process his H-1B here in the United States, having to go back to the consulate and request a waiver for that DUI. Right? It was so many more hoops to jump through for something that to an American wouldn't be a big deal. Right? For someone who's here, a foreign nationals who's here in whatever status, they want to try and follow the laws. Like Felipe said earlier, you're going to file your taxes. You want to do things the right way because you know if you don't, you could get sent home. It is a privilege to get to be here on a visa. It is a privilege to get to apply for a green card. And the majority of foreign nationals know that.
Great point.
You know, Felipe says a lot of wise things to me all the time. And one day he said something to me that like it sticks with me a lot. And he said, as immigrants, we're not allowed to make mistakes, right? So everybody else is allowed to make mistakes and you get second chances, but we rarely get second chances as immigrants. So
oh man, that's what I tell all my students whenever I do, because I do a lot of webinars and seminars for the colleges and universities in Central Florida. And when I talk to the foreign national students, I'm like, please, you always have to be on your best behavior. You can get, and especially these days, you can get sent home. And if you enjoy being here and you want to stay, you really have to be careful. You do not get to make mistakes. And I hate having to say that because you want, like, I've got a kid that just finished his freshman year of college. I want him to have a college experience. I want him to enjoy his time in college. This is the only time in your life that you're going to get to do these things and explore this kind of educational, ideas, right? And get to hang out with all these kids that have all these different opinions from you, right? Like you're never going to be in this situation again. But if you're a foreign national, you got to be careful.
And actually, I have two more questions for you. Well, actually, one comment and one question. One is I actually want to change the narrative on that slightly and say, it is that that an immigrant doesn't have the privilege to make mistakes, but also it sounds like immigrants are choosing not to, right? Like this is a conscious choice. I want to be here. I understand it's a privilege. I know the risk is higher in my situation. And so I'm going to make the very smart choice, an educated choice and wise choice to not make those mistakes that other people can get away with and take very lightly because of their privilege. So I just want to I think we should give people, immigrants credit for their choice to do that. And clearly that's the case because like Courtney said, in the immigrant population, whatever their status, there's less crime amongst that population, right?
Yeah.
So that's a population that's choosing to be good citizens, even though they don't have that citizen status. The other thing I want to say, because it's 7:26, and I'm so sad because there's so much more to this topic. Although I think we've covered a lot of the breadth of the topic. I think we've covered a little bit, a bit of that. We didn't even get to even a quarter of the questions on my list. So in our last few minutes together, what do you folks want to share? What should we make sure that our listeners and the people who are watching this video, whether now or at a later time, get out of this if it hasn't already been said?
I mean, I think it's important to state the fact that immigrants are not the problem. We're actually part of the solution. And we're a part of the fabric of this country. We came from many places and we bring everything we got. We give everything we have to this country because we believe it that much. So some of us even go as far as looking to serve our community like I am right now, running for office, which again, it is an American thing to participate in our democracy in every possible way. So if I could say one more time, we are not the problem. We are part of the solution. We are fathers, mothers, siblings, your nurses, your teachers, the people who pick your food, and we deserve to be treated with dignity.
Thank you for that. And by the way, Deborah said in the chat, that's right. And he's a good speaker. So I love that. Go ahead.
I can't wait to get to hear you on the House floor. Like I'm so excited when you win the election. I would say my parting hope is that we give each other grace, that we realize that everyone's journey in life can be a difficult one, and that we don't always believe the rhetoric that we're hearing, even when it's shoved down our throats, that we all are intelligent enough to be able to think logically and realize like everyone is touched by immigrants in our lives, whether you realize it or not, right? It's the cashier at the grocery store, it's the physical therapist that's helping you recover. We are touched in every way. And I am really excited to see what Dr. Chan does in the future. Astrophysics.
Yeah, so maybe I can add some things like I'm in a way on a way to become a real immigrant, and I think America still is still one of the biggest country in the world, and that when here we have the problem, then other country will also have problem for the immigrant. So, but I hope in the future there's no immigrant issue in the whole world because we are just earthlings. We live on this earth. Why do we need an immigrant? There's no immigrant. We all just live here. Yeah, that's my
I
hope.
love that. That's beautiful.
Oh.
And Giselle.
Well, I guess my parting thought is to remind people to think of the immigrant and as a human being and as the person behind. So not this immigrant that is in the news and this nebulous concept, right? Is remember that it's a human being with hopes and dreams and family, and they want to be reunified with their family. They want to be in the country that they grew up in, or that they've been living here for 10 years. They want to continue working in their business. So let's not forget about the human behind this word of immigrant or immigration.
Absolutely wonderful. And actually, I'm going to, before I do my little conclusion, I'm going to give one of our, somebody who put something in the comment, the last kind of word of the group. And she says, anyone bent down for 10 to 12 hours in bad weather, picking the fields is probably not going to commit crimes because they're just too tired. Immigrants helped shape the USA. And I, you know, truer words have never been spoken. So I want to thank everybody for coming today, for attending this presentation, but also for our wonderful panelists, just such a vibrant group that we had today and lively discussion. We hope that for those of you who are here, you'll take what you've learned today and share this information with others. I'm going to put up a poll right now. So if you would be so kind as to take that poll, you should be seeing it on your screen right now. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion, and we want to help you continue that discussion. So we'll be sending you access to this video so you can watch it, share it with others who may have some value in it. I think lots of people can learn from what we talked about today, our excellent panelists. And all of their insights, but also we'll have our infographic, which actually shares some of the points that you folks mentioned today. Felipe's point about 50% of these large, huge companies that make up the United States were actually founded by immigrants, for example. So in addition, please consider doing something to raise awareness about issues related to immigration. Obviously, coming to this event is a great way to start. Please take this moment to complete that quiz for us. We're going to be having an event coming up in 2 weeks from today on growth mindset, and that's in our Craftivism event. It's a crafting event for adults. We're going to be learning how to make paper as part of our own growth, and we ship all the materials for free, and our event is free. So you just have to sign up a week in advance. So do make sure that you sign up for that event before next Thursday so you can get your kit. And you can look for more programs, not only from our Know-It-All program, as well as our Craftivism program, but we're going to be having an event from our Popcorn and Chat program, which is our movie nights on homelessness. So please join us for that as well. That one will be in June also. Please consider helping us cover the cost of these materials and licensing fees for our movies and all of that by donating to us at the top of our website on the right-hand side, www.informyourcommunity.org. And if you're watching this again on YouTube, please do feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We are so grateful to have all of our wonderful presenters here. Thank you, folks. Have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful night. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you for having us. It was very fun. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.